Welcome back to Showreel. Disney's latest fantasy adventure, Oz the Great and Powerful, sees director Sam Raimi imagining the origins of L. Frank Baum's beloved wizard character. With an all-star lineup including James Franco, Mila Kunis, Oz tells the story of Oz Oscar Diggs, a small-time circus magician and con artist with dubious ethics.
When Oscar's hurled away from dusty Kansas to the vibrant land of Oz, he thinks he's hit the jackpot. That is until he meets three witches, Theodora, Evanora and Glinda, who aren't convinced he's the great wizard that everyone's been expecting. Reluctantly drawn into the epic problems facing the land of Oz, Oscar must find out who is good and who is evil before it's too late.
You're in Oz.
It's like no place I've ever seen.
Great wizard from Kansas. Come and set things right. You're the only one strong enough to destroy the Wicked Witch. Are you the great man we've been waiting for?
I think I could be.
Rated PG.
So coming out in March, actually we're already out in cinemas, it's just broken the first week of the box office. This is obviously the prequel to The Wizard of Oz. So I guess many people who go and see this movie won't be familiar with The Wizard of Oz if they're a lot younger. The Wizard of Oz, of course, the 1939 making of the film. What did we think, girls?
It was average, I don't know. I watched the original last night and it's on another level. Yeah, I don't know.
Had you seen The Wizard of Oz?
Yeah, I saw it last Thursday, and you know when it came out, and I just had such high expectations for it, and it just fell so far short of what I thought it would be.
It's definitely a change from the older versions, especially since Warner Brothers now owns the right to a lot of iconic elements that were in The Wizard of Oz. So you won't see the ruby slippers, you won't see like a different shade of green on the witch.
Right.
Yeah.
No
You won't see the yellow brick
the
road.
wart's missing.
Yeah.
Yellow brick road. Right.
So it's not something I'd usually go and see, but Franco was enough to make me go and watch it.
Look, I'm going to call it how it is. It's a movie for 6-year-olds. Or people who behave like 6-year-olds, or people who can imagine like 6-year-olds.
Or people who love James Franco.
Or 6-year-olds.
Or 6-year-olds.
So that's exactly right. Look, to be honest, it was a big budget film. I think the production budget was $200 million. Big budget film. And I was a little concerned. There are a couple of things in the movie for me that just didn't flow right. Half of the time we were on a really great set, and then other parts of the time we were in Toontown. We were in a Looney Tunes. It was very animated. And it seemed to me to be really inconsistent. Did you notice that?
The CGI was a little bit out on some, you know, all of a sudden they're walking down the yellow brick road and there's this big scene. You're like, hold on a minute. You're looking to either side and it just didn't quite line up. So yeah, that was definitely one of the things, kind of stood out.
I think that's almost something that was intentional though. It was supposed to cut away to something more fantasy land. That's how it's always usually been.
Yeah.
So I guess it was kind of holding back to the old style stuff.
Yeah, I really did enjoy the fact that it was in black and white, kind of that noir style to start with, and Zach Braff being in there, and then cutting it to the extreme colour. I mean, obviously back in 1939 that would have been, you know, the same type of thing, but yeah, the fact that it didn't go back to the black and white at the end, it was supposed to, The Wizard of Oz being a dream land, and for that to stay there and not go back. And incorporate all of those characters, because obviously in the 1939 Julie Garland version, she has all of these characters and she has a dream and they're all in the dream and then she goes back. It seems like the Michelle Williams character came through as Glinda, as you know, and that kind of travelled on. I didn't really understand what was going on with that.
Well, let's have a talk about some of the casting, because the main character we know is James Franco. It was turned down by Robert Downey Jr. It was turned down by Johnny Depp as well, who personally I think would have been excellent. Anytime you take Edward Scissorhands and make him into a wizard, it's going to work.
Well, Johnny Depp was originally interested in the part, but he had filming conflicts.
Yeah. There's a lot
but it would have been
on.
good to have him in it.
Yeah, I agree.
Sucks when you get paid so much money, you've got so many options, doesn't it?
All of the female leads were so strong in this. Rachel Weisz, who's in The Mummy, and I love her in everything. I thought that she was just amazing in this movie. Obviously we can't ruin the ending for anyone, but her transformation at the end was scary. I wouldn't take my 6-year-old to see that. That was in your face, and I was, I don't know, it was very Sam Raimi, I thought, because I mean he's come from the Evil Dead, and you know I thought it was odd when he went into Spider-Man and then into this. The transition, it seems to flow, but you know he's gone back to making Evil Dead. I think he just wanted to see some horror in there. So it was kind of like, oh,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, also the musical score that's received a lot of notice.
Done by Danny Elfman, who you may know from the Simpsons theme.
Also, with a little bit of Mariah Carey thrown in as well.
Yeah.
What do we think of that?
I don't know. Like I said, I watched the original last night, and every song in that is iconic. And this just didn't seem to have any of those, really catchy
standout tracks
that get stuck in your head, like Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead, or The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, all of those types. I mean, excuse my singing. But those, even people who don't know the movie or have never seen the original know those songs. So I just didn't think that it was really.
But then it is kind of taking away from the old version, since they don't have those iconic elements. I guess it is kind of paving their own version of it.
It was almost an entirely different story.
Look, one of the things they've been able to do with this new with the new film, the prequel, that they wouldn't have been able to do back in 1939 was the use of 3D. We've seen a lot of 3D lately. We've seen 3D in Life of Pi. We've seen it in Hugo. I personally didn't see the 3D version, but I heard the 3D version of this film was really good.
Yeah, I saw it in 3D. I think it's just getting kind of done to death. But yeah, I was really impressed with the 3D. And I mean, I guess that's why it was so scary at the end with things kind of jumping out. That's probably it now that I put my finger on it. But yeah, no, I guess with so much CGI, it's just all incorporated into the film as a base element these days. So, it's...
Now, the promotion of the film was really interesting because to promote the film, they ended up using a hot air balloon that travelled across the US of A, which is, if you haven't seen the film, there's that key moment at the beginning with a hot air balloon, and this hot air balloon travelled across the US for the distribution and the promotion of it. They were expecting 80 million in the box office on the first weekend. They reached their 80 million. How long do you think we'll see this film around for? Do you think it will be as iconic as the original?
I don't think so. An interesting thing I was Googling before, the $80 million that they made on box office for this, it cost $200 million to make. Back in 1939, the film grossed $17 million, and in translation, I mean, that was during the Depression. So $17 million is actually $275 million nowadays. So, you want to try and put them on scale in an iconic movie as opposed to what's come out now.
Well, it has killed at the box office, and because of that, a sequel has been confirmed. What are your thoughts on that, given that we won't have the iconic elements that you did in the 1939 version? My
first thought is it needs to be shorter. This was the longest movie that I have seen in a really long time. It was 155 minutes, really long, particularly if it's aimed at a kids' movie. The sequel, look, I think it's going to depend on casting. I think it will depend on whether or not they do it in 3D. There's potential there for it. Will it ever be as great as the original?
I don't think there's much of a gap between the end of this one and the start of The Wizard of Oz. Really, you've got the start of The Wizard of Oz where the Wicked Witch of the West has a house dropped on her, and the Wicked Witch of the East, and then Wicked Witch of the West is flying around. It's like, what really can happen in that time after this one? You have to see it. Well, but I just don't think that there is, much. Obviously, she's, Wicked Witch of the West has gotten a lot more evil in that space of time. But what could possibly have happened to make her more evil? Well, who knows?
We'll have to see how it goes. Now, before we wrap it up, let's have a look and see. Out of 5, what do we give it, ladies?
I'm giving it a 3 out of 5.
Oh, 3 out of 5, Bridget, Amanda?
I give it a 3.
I give it a 2. It was the longest movie ever.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see. So on average, it's a 3 out of 5 for us.